This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for August 15th, 2024. This is season 14, episode number 2. Dose. Episode number 441 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everybody. I am your host. If I sound a little hoarse, it's because one of the guests that you'll hear in a little bit, he and I talked for almost 2 hours here just before I started recording this opening segment. And what a great young man he is. And I can't wait for you guys to hear that interview that I have with Jack Hudec, who's playing with the Watertown Wolves and has the On the Spot Sports podcast that you can hear on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the different platforms that you listen to your podcast, just like you do with the Power Play Post Show. But excited to have him on. Also, former Binghamton Black Bear, Liam Anderson, also going to be on the show in a little bit. And there's not really much news to cover since last week, seeing that it is in the middle of the summertime. So there's just a few signings that we're going to talk about. So let me get right into it before I lose my voice, because I really do feel like I'm going to lose my voice here. So here are the must-reads. All right, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search for Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Those numbers have gone up. Really appreciate you guys subscribing to the podcast. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show and share with any of your friends and family that would enjoy the show as well. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, just as I just mentioned, former Binghamton Black Bear Liam Anderson on the show. And for his first time, fellow podcaster, host of On the Spot Sports podcast, and professional goalie, has a tryout with the Watertown Wolves. Jack Hudec will be on the show as well. All right, so we have a great lineup of guests, so I'm really excited for you guys to hear from those guys and everything. But let's get into really what happened over the past 6 days. Basically, the Black Bears signed 3 more players since last week. On Friday of last week, they signed Jamie Bucell. He is a right winger. The Ohio native came to New York to attend Utica College, where he played 5 seasons with the Pioneers hockey team. Bucell brought into the Black Bears organization early in the 2022-23 season by then head coach Gary Gill. In his 13 games with the club, Bucell recorded 14 points, 3 goals, and 11 assists. He finished the season on loan with the Huntsville Havoc, playing in 28 games with the Alabama club. Bucell battled through an injury that caused him to miss a significant portion of the Havoc season last year, but still managed to appear in 30 games, registering 13 points. One of the things that I will say about Jamie Bucell, what I liked about him was that he was good at different aspects of the game, right? So he was good at winning battles. He was good when needed to. If he had to take a face-off, he was okay in doing that. He could hit a guy. He could score goals. So has a little bit of everything, and I think he's going to be very good on the right wing for the Binghamton Black Bears. The Black Bears then announced on Tuesday that they signed Emerson Emery, no relation to Ray Emery. He's a forward. The recently turned 26-year-old grew up in Montville, New Jersey, and was a part of the New Jersey Hitmen AAA program for multiple seasons. After his U18 season with the Hitmen, Emery joined the nearby Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Knights of the EHL. If anyone remembers Gino D'Angelo, he also played for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights, and I think a couple other players with the Black Bears has as well. While playing with the Knights, Emery appeared in 82 games plus 11 postseason appearances. Emery totaled 44 points while being a part of the Knights program. In the most recent years, Emery has played in MD1 ACHA level hockey in the Westchester University, serving as team captain. In 92 games with the Golden Rams, Emery recorded 44 goals, 58 assists, and tied the team high in most recent season with 43. Now, the Black Bears also announced on Wednesday that they have signed Elliot Van Orsdel. He's a right winger and center. The 23-year-old joins the Black Bears from the University of Southern Maine, where he played the last 2 seasons at the NCAA Division III level. Before joining the Huskies program, Van Orsdel was a member of the Minnesota Mullets in the SPHL Premier. In his 2 seasons of junior hockey with the Mullets, he was able to play 78 games, recording 26 goals and 64 assists. Elliot did serve as team captain in his final year with the Mullets in 2021-2022 season. Now, what I'm going to say about the 2 new guys, Emerson Emery and Elliot Van Orsdel, they both served as captains at some point in their careers over the past 4 or 5 years. That's important to Coach Sherwood. Now, I haven't talked to Coach Sherwood about these players yet, and maybe I'll get a chance to talk to him in the near future. He's getting ready for a wedding coming up in September, so, he's got things on his plate. So I've been leaving him alone. I know he said he wanted to come on the show sometime in the summertime. Maybe it'll be after the wedding. We'll have him on. But I could just tell when you look at the character of a player. If a player serves as a captain at some point in his junior career, college career, there's a reason why. And Coach Sherwood recognizes that. He sees that those type of people that have been captains elsewhere, when he brings them in, he knows that they're good character guys. They work hard. There's a reason why someone put the C on them at one point before. So maybe these 2 guys both make the team. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But he's bringing in character guys to fill in those last few spots that the Black Bears are going to have because so many players are coming back. So I think this is a really good thing for the Black Bears and probably for these 2 players because they're coming on. They're going to see how a championship team works and runs in camp, things of that nature. I'm excited for camp. I hope you guys are as well. Well, before my voice completely gives out, we're going to go to our first interview. All right. You know him. You love him. He's L.A., probably one of the quietest guys to be around in person, but he's a hell of an awesome guy. He's going to go play in Germany this upcoming season and everything. Very fortunate. He was really happy to have won the Cup here in Binghamton. He's going to go check out Germany. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, before Bob loses his voice, we're going to talk to Liam Anderson, formerly of the Binghamton Black Bears, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back to the Power Play Post Show. I'm kind of sad that he only is going to play 1 year with the Binghamton Black Bears, and that was last year. And, we kind of became close, and I very much enjoy his company. And now he's going to head out to Germany, and this is a great experience for him. So it's not about me, it's about him. But he is our good friend from last year's Binghamton Black Bears. He is a champion. He is L.A., Liam Anderson. Liam, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on, and I cannot wait to have the fans hear about this new adventure for you and what you're going to do this upcoming season. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for that intro. That's awesome. I'm glad to be back and chop it up with you and talk more Black Bears hockey. So let's get to it.
Absolutely. Okay, so Liam, obviously the season ended the way pretty much the team wanted it to. There was a championship. They won, 7 in a row in the playoffs. unfortunately, you did not see the ice in those 7 games. Still champion. I saw you raise that cup. I saw you sitting there smiling with your father on the ice afterwards. Can you sum up what it's like to be a Black Ace on a team that wins a championship, but unfortunately you don't get on the ice? It's got to be kind of bittersweet, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that month and a bit, we went through that playoff run. You know, it was kind of a mental battle, but like at the end of the day, like you have to look at like things objectively and kind of like what they are, and you can't really think about it yourself. Like at the end of the day, it's not about me. Like I'd be lying if I said I didn't wish I played throughout the playoffs, but like it's not about me. It's about the success of the Binghamton Black Bears. You know, so I just think through that month, it was just kind of my duty to, you know, take a step back and make sure that I put the work in at practice, put in the extra reps in the gym, and I'd say most importantly, just be a guy in the room that people wanted to be around and just be like a good teammate. You know, I think this year kind of being a depth guy and like the role I kind of adapted on that team, it worked out for me that well because I fit in so well with the guys in the room, you know? So, I mean, I wouldn't really say it's bittersweet. Like,
okay.
Like at the end of the day, I understand the decisions that were made,
mm-hmm.
and you know they worked. Like the team went 7-0 in playoffs and didn't lose a game. Like you know, like once we won, none of that kind of mattered. You know, like I think at the end of the day, when me and the guys on the team and Sherwood and Andreas like look back on like what happened this past year, like it's not going to be, oh, this guy like didn't play, this guy played, and such. It's just going to be all the memories of, you know, just the guys being rewarded for all that work we've kind of put in all year, you know? Like, I know, like me and Wally, like we're the only Black Aces that were kind of there since day one, and
right.
You know, you get to go to war with these guys for 6-7 months, and we were a really close team, right? So, like, at the end of the day, it's like, it's just a great feeling when all that kind of hard work pays off.
Yeah, everybody had big smiles on their face after the game, after the championship, raising the championship. What was the conversation like with your father? I know you were on the ice with your father. I got some pictures of you with your dad on the ice with the cup and everything. What was that conversation like? Because it almost seems like, you know, we've talked about this before. You know, if it isn't for your family, if it isn't for your father, a lot of what you have done would have been more difficult, right? You know, they help you so much out when you're playing youth hockey, driving you to games and coaching you in some cases and talking to you and keeping you grounded, all those type of things. And yeah, you spent 3 years at college at SUNY Cortland and everything, but what was that conversation like with him afterwards? You know, can you fill us in a little bit of what maybe you guys talked about a little bit?
I honestly can't remember too much. I think like that whole night was kind of a blur, but it was just more along the lines of it's like, hey, like, you know, I love you. This is awesome. This is great. Like, you know, like a job well done. Like good job. Like I'm just super happy and kind of proud. You know, I mean, just thinking about that night. Even still to this day, I really don't have words to describe it. Like, even when I look at pictures of, like, celebrating in front of 5,000 fans and everyone going crazy and, like, chugging beers on the ice and just hugging everyone. And, yeah,
Now, so
it's just all
it's
all good.
No, I totally understand. I've never won a cup on the ice before, so I can't say that I completely understand. But I totally hear what you're saying. I have to ask this. During the whole playoffs and everything, the one thing that was pointed out to me multiple times was LA's the first person that people are high-fiving as they come off the ice. LA's still in the weight room, lifting weights and whatnot. I mean, I walked through the locker room to go to Brent Sherwood's office, and at one point I look over and I was like, who's that? And he's like, oh, that's LA, working out. This is the middle of the playoffs, and your mindset is still, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do this as much as I can. Where does that come from? Where did that come from for you that, you're still going to go 110%, even though you may not make the game?
Yeah, I just think it's kind of a mindset I've always had, and since I was a kid, growing up playing hockey, even in Toronto, I started off playing the lowest level of rep and ended up playing the second highest level of rep, and then for 5 years, I always wanted to play AAA, and that was just kind of what I wanted to do, and it was just a goal of mine. And then once I did it, I just kind of always look ahead to see what's next. Being in that position is you really have two options. You can kind of check out mentally, pout about it, kind of be oh, woe is me, this sucks, this is stupid, I don't deserve this. Or you can take it upon yourself to kind of, have good intentional actions and, just self-reflect and think about the things you need to work on to ultimately get better. I'm just always kind of in the mindset of okay, I'm in this spot now. I want to play more. I want to play at a higher level. How am I going to get there? And once I figure out how I'm going to get there, what kind of work do I have to do to be that person? If that kind of makes sense.
No, it does make sense. Give me an insight on the partying for the next week before you left Binghamton. What was the partying like for you guys afterwards?
It's just kind of embarrassing for me to say, but it was a week, and I remember bits and spurts of it, but I just kind of, all those days kind of blend into one, and I just remember it was a good time. A couple times, a couple days we were at the stadium.
Right.
Went to Kraft, Red Jug. We went to the Rumble Ponies game one day. Actually, they let us into their dressing room after that game we went to, so that was pretty cool. We got to talk to the Rumble Ponies guys for a bit. And then, other than that, it was just kind of hanging around Whitney Point and just talking shop with the boys, Nothing out of the ordinary.
Just a few brewskis were shared, right, amongst all?
Yeah. We were responsible, though. I have to put it out there. We were civilized about it, for sure.
Well, that's good. I'm sure you guys definitely were. Before we move on, talk about some summer stuff and the upcoming move to Germany and everything. Is there? I know if you run across anybody down the street or at anywhere, is there going to be still maybe one or two guys that I think you grew the closest to that you will probably, when you're 90 years old, still send a message to, that type of thing? I know that whole locker room was so amazing. Everybody liked each other. It got better as the season went along when a couple situations were taken care of. But are there a guy or two that you're going to be like, oh, yeah, 90 years old and I'm wearing diapers, sitting in a rocking chair, I'm still going to send a message to this guy?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one because, again, I still talk to a bunch of them. We have this group chat from Whitney Point, and we still talking it to this day. But it's kind of hard to pick one guy. But I'd probably say I'll give you two.
Okay.
I'd say one would be Kyle Stepan. Like he moved into my apartment when he signed late in the season, and like from day one we kind of hit it off because we just had so many like similar experiences, like kind of growing up in Ontario and kind of knowing a bunch of mutual people, and he's just a great down to earth guy that loves hockey. And I mean, the one thing that kind of bugs me about him is that he's a Rangers fan, so we got into some heated debates over.
What do you got against Ranger fans? I mean, come on. I mean, we're not bad people. It's not like we've won that much more than you guys have. I mean, let's be honest about that.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know. It's just
there's nothing wrong with Ranger fans.
There's just something about MSG that doesn't sit right with me. I don't know
why. It's one of the best arenas to watch a hockey game in. Oh my God, Elliot! Listen. When you come back, I'm taking you to a Rangers game, and we're going to sit down and we're going to enjoy it. Maybe we'll get Kyle Stepan. Well, he'll probably be up in his dad's box somewhere and everything. Yeah. But still, we'll go to a Rangers game and just enjoy it and everything. But okay, so Kyle Stepan, he's one. Now, first of all, before you move on to the second guy you were going to mention. Did it seem like to me, because it seemed like to me, I don't know if it did to you, it seemed like Kyle Stepan, who had taken 4 years off, whatever it was, before he came back and Jersey gave him the chance to come back, it seemed like he was having almost more fun than anybody else on the ice to be back playing hockey again. Am I assessing that correctly, that it just seemed like he was enjoying himself way too much or just really enjoying being back so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it perfectly. Like in his situation, like Dan Stone had a similar situation, right? Like they graduated college and they kind of decided to kind of hang it up for a bit, and they were just working like corporate jobs, and they were kind of in situations where, you know, they couldn't see themselves doing that for the rest of their life. And, you know, but yeah, that's the thing with Steph. Like so many times, like we'd either be driving back from like lunch or whatever, like taking Zoe out for a walk, and you'd be like, dude, like you have no idea, like real life kind of sucks. Like I just love hanging out with the boys and like saying dumb shit and just laughing like I'm back in college again.
That's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, that is very true.
That is awesome. Okay, so who's the other guy that you think that you're just going to stay so close with for a very long time?
I'd probably say Josh Fletcher.
Oh, Fletch. Now, did you room with him as well?
Pardon me?
Did you room with him as well?
No, they were... so I was in apartment 4, and they were in apartment 6 right above me, Fletch, C-Mac, and Weeks.
Okay.
But their room is kind of like a hangout spot, so when nothing was going on, I just run up the steps and go hang out with them.
Now, they're the guys that played the NHL a lot. Because we talked about this a lot, you know, obviously on the show. Some guys like to play NHL. Some guys like to play the shoot-'em-up games, you know, the first shooters and everything. Where did you fit in on that again?
Again, I'm not really much of a video game guy. I mean, I would mix in a game or two at Fortnite. I'm pretty trash at Fortnite, but actually, me and Weaves would play... I think it's like PGA 2K20 or something.
Oh, okay.
It's like a golf game.
Yeah.
So we do that, but yeah, still to this day, I can't really say I'm a video game guy because I'm not good at a lot of them.
Neither am I.
I'm horrible at Fortnite.
Yeah, my brother, my brother, who's 6 years older than me, always great at all the video games, and then I would come along and be like, nah, that's okay. That's probably why I picked up playing guitar and played hockey instead, because it's like, you know, playing video games just wasn't my thing. Even back in the 80s when video games were really bad. But all right, so that's that. Let's move on. You obviously had a very fun summer so far. Can you tell the fans a little bit about what you've done? Because you've gotten to travel a little bit, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so again, I'll start kind of from the week after we ended up winning the championship. I headed home for probably like 2 or 3 days, and then I was right back out to the airport. Drove to Syracuse, flew to San Francisco for a couple of days.
Crazy.
Got to see a lot of cool stuff. Went to the Golden Gate Bridge. Got to see Alcatraz Island, and just a bunch of cool stuff out there. But one thing I will say,
yeah,
I'm really disappointed in was I didn't see a single seal.
Really?
Not one.
That would be disappointing.
So I was kind of fired up about that. I mean, like, the weather wasn't the best. I think it was like 65 and a little cloudy, but yeah, San Francisco's a really cool spot. I got to go back again when maybe it's a little nicer outside. And then after that, went to Hawaii for a week.
Nice.
And that place is like paradise, to say the least. It was perfect. It was like 85 every day, sunny. It wasn't humid. Just kind of spent most of my time just on the beach, paddle boarding,
nice,
swimming, and kind of just lounging out and having a good time.
Now, who did you go with to Hawaii?
I went with my girlfriend at the time.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Now, did you see Dog the Bounty Hunter? Because if you didn't, I will be very upset.
No, I did not.
Well, that's too bad. You know, I thought he was real.
Yeah, sorry to disappoint you.
He must not be real then, because everybody that I know that's gone to Hawaii has not seen Dog the Bounty Hunter, and I thought he was real. So that must have been just a TV character. I don't know. You never think. I must have been fooled by TV on that one, LA. So
yeah.
After Hawaii, you went out west in Canada as well, correct?
Yeah, so my dad's from a small town in central Saskatchewan called Swift Current, or as the locals like to call it, Speedy Creek. So he still has friends who he grew up with that still live there, and one of his closest friends lives in Montreal, and he ended up coming to Toronto over Easter break, and they had dinner, and they kind of threw the idea of like, hey, how cool would it be to like just hang out in Swift Current for a week and golf, because Swift Current's a small town. It's only, I think it's like 18,000 people, but there's 2 really nice golf courses. So we went out there, got to go out there, golf every day, hang out with his buddies, and reconnect with some people that we haven't seen in a long time. Like, I used to go out there probably once a year, like when I was like 5 to 10, because my grandma still lived there, and after she passed in 2010, we haven't been there since. So it was kind of cool. Like, the town's so small. My dad and I like left our Airbnb, and it's like, all right, like, go find where Grandma's house used to be. And funny enough, I actually remembered like where it was, and it's kind of like along this main street, and like you look across the street, and it's just like these massive prairie hills.
Wow.
You know, I got to say, like, people kind of dog the prairies, but it's got its own kind of beauty. I really like it out there.
Yeah, I could only imagine how pretty it is. How important is this time away? Because, you know, sometimes hockey can consume you. Sometimes a day job can consume you and everything. How important were these trips to you to help you mentally?
Yeah, I mean, like, they're kind of everything, you know? Like, I think, like, I'm at an age where I can kind of, like, hang out with my parents instead of, like, them kind of, like, babying me in a sense, you know? And, like, being able just to kind of, like, have a couple, like, casual beers with my dad and, like, hear stories I haven't heard before, or, like, talk to, like, some of his buddies about, like, what it was like for them kind of growing up. And, yeah, it's just kind of nice and relaxing. And you're right, it's definitely nice to take a break from stuff that kind of consumes us in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, and how important was it? How important was it to do it with your dad too?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of everything, you know. Like, he's always been there for me. Like, I mean, I'm an only child, and he runs his own business. And like ever since I started playing hockey when I was like 8, 9 years old, it was always him waking me up early, driving me to the rink, like taking me to skates, driving me home. So yeah, it's just kind of like moments like that you cherish for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was the first part of that trip.
Yeah.
And then we drove back to Calgary and to see more of my family out there, and ended up hooking up with like Fletch and Dan Stone, and they showed me the ropes at the Calgary Stampede and the rodeo.
Now that's cool. How cool was that?
It was it was phenomenal. Again, I'm a city boy. Like, that's something that's not even remotely in my world. Like, honestly, the first person I've ever met that kind of does that stuff is Connor Smith.
Sure.
Actually, yeah, that's another thing I forgot about too. He, the rodeo he participates in, like, does circuits in Canada, and I actually got to go see him, do a rodeo right outside Toronto in the middle of June. So I got to hang out with him for a bit too.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it was great seeing him.
Yeah, no, so let me ask you this. All right, I'm going to ask you, listen, I got to ask the tough questions sometimes here on the Power Play Post Show. Have you ever...
Sounds good.
Okay, here we go. Have you ever ridden a horse before?
Yeah.
Okay, you have. All right.
Yeah, when I was little, and I used to go out to Saskatchewan all the time.
Okay.
My aunt and uncle had a few horses in a barn like outside of town, so they kind of threw me up there, and I don't remember kind of being in control or what, but yeah, I've definitely ridden a couple horses.
All right, so you're a city boy, but with some country experience.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's pretty cool. So you've seen Fletch and Stone. Obviously, you've seen Connor Smith and whatnot this summer. And you got to see Connor do in his element, which is pretty cool as well. Now, Fletch and Stone, they went to the rodeo with you, but neither one of them really do what Connor Smith does, right?
No, they don't, but you can definitely tell that they're Western Canadian Albertans.
Yeah.
So we kind of made it an all-day thing. Like, I literally woke up at my aunt's house in Calgary, and Fletch picked me up at probably 10 in the morning. And again, I don't own any kind of rodeo attire. And Fletch had me in a nice collared shirt with a really big cowboy hat and nice boots and a belt buckle and jeans. I looked like a real cowboy. Honestly, it was pretty impressive.
Tell me there's pictures of this.
They might have some. I don't think I have any.
I am going to, after we're done with this interview, I am so messaging Fletch to ask him if he's got a picture of you in your cowboy outfit. I just have to see it. It's almost like me being like an uncle of yours, and your dad is sending me saying, "Hey, listen, we got the boy on a horse," and I just have to see it. So I'm going to admit right now, I am going to seek out a picture and see if I can see that. But that's important. It's important to go and do these things during the summertime, because you did go and you signed a contract to play in Germany. Talk about the thought process of doing this. To me, it's a great adventure. It's an experience that you're going to be able to do that not a lot of people are going to be able to do. Like, I just can't quit my IT job and go play for a hockey team out in Germany and everything. Number one, they wouldn't want me. Number two, I'd probably get arrested if I walked into the arena. But either way, talk about the decision to go play in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was kind of a tough one, saying kind of goodbye to upstate and central New York is kind of tough because, again, it's been my home for the past 4 years. But I just think it's always something that I wanted to do as a kid. I've always been curious about kind of people in different places, and I just kind of want to explore, something new. And I have a great opportunity to do that. And again, like I mentioned before, I officially became a Polish citizen.
Yeah.
These past couple months, so like I don't need a visa or anything to show up there. I can just go. I have kind of it's kind of weird to say this, but like I have more like freedom to work and live and stuff in these countries in the EU that I don't have in the US.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of restrictions. What some fans may not know or may know, when Canadian players come down to the U.S. to play hockey, and if they do need to work because they're not playing in the NHL and they don't have millions of dollars in contracts and whatnot, and they have to work, there's a lot of restrictions that people don't know about and everything. It's very difficult. We have a guy here that I work with in my day job. In IT, he actually lives in Toronto now, and he married a girl up in Toronto, and the restrictions of just him being able to do anything, like moving up to Toronto for him, there was like he had to be there for a year before they could even apply for him to be able to marry her. It's the craziest thing. There's restrictions on both sides of the border. It's not just U.S. There's some on the Canadian side as well that makes it difficult for Canadian players to come down and just work here in the U.S. And a big part of it is, of course, U.S. restrictions and taxes and those kind of stupid laws and everything. But one of the things that you told me, which I thought was interesting, is that your mom's side of the family is Polish and Ukrainian, and then your dad's side of the family is Swedish and Scottish. And I got to be honest with you, when I first met you, I literally said, oh, he's Swedish up and down all the way and everything, and I had no idea these other three countries were part of your lineage and everything, and now you're being able to use that because of your grandfather, who was alive in 1918 at least up till, and lived in Poland. You were able to get this citizenship, which is really cool. I not a lot of people get a chance to do something that you're going to be doing now.
Yeah, I mean, It is kind of crazy. It's kind of like I explained to you like before, like I kind of like made an effort to kind of figure it out. And like on the Swedish side, I'm too far removed.
Sure.
The Scottish, same thing. And again, like with the Ukrainian thing, I have no idea what's going to happen there. So it's just kind of best to leave it. But yeah, I mean, I have no idea why like the laws in Poland are the way they are, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty grateful for it. And, it's like I said before, it's kind of funny, like I don't speak Polish. Wasn't raised Polish at all. My last name's Anderson. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still in the blood, and I'm super proud to kind of bring it back to life and kind of see what happens down the road. It just opens a lot of doors for me in hockey and life-wise. Okay,
so what can you tell us about the Harzfeld Tigers of the German 4 League? What can you tell us about this? How did you get connected with their GM or their coach? What have the conversations been like? Tell us, give us a little behind the scenes there.
Yeah, so like to the average person, kind of going overseas, it's a lot more complicated than you think of. Like again, like I do have an advisor. His actually, funny enough, his kid is a Tampa prospect. He plays for the Syracuse Crunch.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a Canadian guy. Played in Sweden for a long time. Married a Swedish girl. Kind of goes back and forth in the GTA. I got hooked up with him through a mutual friend, and he has a lot of contacts out there. And the captain of the team in Harzfeld last year was a kid I grew up playing minor hockey and junior hockey against, and I kind of reached out to him. And once I had the offer, and I was like, hey, like how are things here? Like, how'd you like it? What's it like? And he had nothing but good things to kind of say about it, and I was just kind of like, all right, like cool, like let's do it.
Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm just trying to think of differences. So I'd say the big thing, which people don't consider, is so when you play in a specific league in the country, your playing rights are owned by that governing hockey board. Like, so for me, going to SUNY Cortland and playing for Binghamton, my hockey rights were under Hockey USA.
Oh, okay.
And now since I'm going to Germany, the Harsefeld had to pay. I think it's around $1,500. It's like a double IHF like transfer card fee to get my playing rights under the German Ice Hockey Federation.
Had no idea that existed. Had no idea that was the system that was in place. Okay, that to me that's very interesting.
Yeah, and it goes from country to country, so it's like, I don't know, I can make up imaginary scenarios here, but
yeah, no,
like
I understand.
If I decide to play the rest of my career in Germany, that's something that those clubs don't have to worry about. But if, like, let's say I want to come back to North America or go play in Poland or Sweden or wherever, like, that new country is going to have to pay, like, that fee to get my playing rights into that country.
That is interesting. That's something that I had no idea that was the way that worked.
Yeah, and it's a really big thing with some teams because it's like anything else. Some teams have a lot of money and they can just pay the fee, whatever. It's not a big deal. And some teams, like, that's something they do consider when, like, they're trying to sign guys.
Yeah, and you also told me about another rule that they could only have 2 North Americans on it per team, correct?
Yeah, so you can only have 2 North Americans in Germany forward per team. So you're either Canadian or American. And before I signed, there's 2 kids signed from Edmonton. They both played in the Major Junior and the WHL. And one played a couple years at Western University in youth sports. But because they enter Germany as a Polish citizen and not Canadian, I don't count towards those import spots. I'm considered a European import.
That's
not a
cool.
North American.
That's pretty cool. Let me ask you this. You talked about a couple of the guys that, played in the WHL that played over there as well on this team. The skill level is going to be pretty impressive and whatnot. You have this natural skating ability. You skate really well and everything. What else do you think that your personal self, that you were going to have to improve on to play with these guys?
Yeah, I think that's kind of going to be the biggest adjustment, like going to that Olympic pad, with the Olympic pad, you have more time and space to make plays. It's a little more structured and a finesse type of game, there's less kind of like meat grinder, jump the puck in, go like dig out pucks in the corner and kind of like bully a team, like physically. Like actually I think the games are streamed on YouTube. Like I've been able to watch a few games, but yeah, it's just like a lot of, it's more of a like skill and possess type of game compared to like just being physical. Again, it's like, I remember the last time we talked and I said like, going up to Watertown, it's probably the hardest game for us because it's like, we took advantage of them being so fast and so skilled in Binghamton, but it's harder to do that in a smaller rink. So when you add like a couple more feet across the whole rink, it's going to be like, it's just a different game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been well talked about how the difference of the game is on the European side compared to the North American side. Even in the NHL, the skill and the difference between that and sometimes the KHL and the way the game is played is massively different. A big part of that is rink size, and which you already talked about. How excited are you for this?
I mean, I'm pretty pumped. It's going to be a really big change and adjustment, but like at the end of the day, it's like I'm granted the opportunity to go to a foreign country I've never been to before to play a sport I love, right? So, it's it's a lot of a mixed emotions. Most of it's like super exciting. I think the one thing that is going to be the biggest adjustment, just kind of being over there, like obviously in Europe, like the Western, like influence of like the United States, like has over people. So most of them do speak English,
right?
But like German is kind of a hard language to grasp. Like I downloaded Duolingo on my phone, and I've been doing like just like certain words and stuff like that. But I'm not really gonna get a big grasp on the language, or even if at all, until I'm kind of over there and like seeing it firsthand, seeing guys talking German.
Well, a buddy of mine is he's over in Czechoslovakia. He played for the Binghamton Senators and the Syracuse Crunch before he went back over. Phil Novak. I know he listens to the show every once in a while and everything. And he tried to teach me Czech a long time ago, and still every once in a while a word will slip through, and I'll be like, "What?" And but I think you'll make out okay, because I think Czech and German. I think German's still a little bit tougher than Czech, but all that Slovak, Polish, German, very difficult languages, at least in my eyes. But then I barely passed English class, so I got to be honest with you. I struggled with my firstborn language and everything. So trying to teach me Spanish, that was a failure. I was in Spanish class for 3 weeks. LA, and I was like, nope, I'm done with that. Let's move on. Put me in shop. I'd rather learn how to fix a carburetor than speak Spanish, only because I struggled with it. Reading and writing, funny enough, that was the thing I struggled with the most, and now it's the thing I have to use the most, doing a podcast and writing about hockey games and stuff. So it's hilarious in that sense, but that's how life just provides irony. Liam, obviously, LA, going into this, what do you want to say to the Binghamton fans that are listening and everything? Is there a message you would like to send to them and everything before you head over to Germany? I know you're going to pay attention to the Black Bears and what they're doing and how they're doing and everything, but anything to the fans, because I know one of the things that most players say about Binghamton is one of the best parts about playing in Binghamton is playing in front of those fans. What you have a message for them?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about that. I mean, the night we won, like, same thing, 5,000 people. Like, I couldn't even hear myself think in that rink during the game. But, it was all kind of good and positive. Like, to this day, I still have, like, people from the Booster Club and fans kind of reach out and asking me how I'm doing and stuff. So, again, they've been nothing but kind, great, and great to me. So I'm forever grateful for that experience. And, the Black Bears have the best fan base in the league, and that's kind of non-negotiable in my opinion,
Well, that's excellent. They gained a few more competitors this year as the league went from 11 to 14. LA, good luck over in Germany. Have fun. I know one of the things that you're going to be able to get to do is work with kids, working around the rink and helping kids and everything, produce more hockey players, which is great. It's a sport that you and I both love to death, and you're going to be able to not only play hockey over there professionally, but get to work with kids and help youth hockey, which is a pretty cool thing. I think you have a great work ethic. It's something that should be passed around to youth of hockey, because the only way you're going to make it the only way you're going to be Sidney Crosby or you're going to be Liam Anderson and a champion anywhere is to work really hard at every little aspect that it takes to become good at what you do. And they're going to be fortunate to have you over there. But good luck, and thank you very much as always. And maybe we'll check in somehow. We'll figure it out. The time thing is going to be weird. I think you guys are like 7 or 8 hours ahead over in Germany than we are. But we can figure it out. Maybe get you back on the show again.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, that's the thing. I still got to figure out a way to come back to Binghamton and pick up my ring.
Oh, yeah. So, well, you got to come in for that, too. So that is true.
Yeah, I got to figure that out.
No, absolutely. Well, Liam, L.A., thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, and it's always good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me again. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I think you're going to enjoy this interview. I know that I've already talked to him for 38 minutes, and I've already enjoyed this interview. He actually hosts On the Spot Sports. It's basically a podcast by athletes for athletes. He's also got a PTO contract with the Watertown Wolves. He is a goaltender. Maybe hasn't been a goaltender for a very long time. We'll talk to him a little bit about that as well. He is Jack Hudec. Jack, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for coming on. I think I could talk about podcasting with you for the next 15 years. So I am so excited that you're on the show today. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here and happy to share whatever you want me to share.
Absolutely. Now, one of the cool things about you, and it's kind of like a connection that you and I can easily talk about and kind of connect with, is that you're from the outskirts of Chicago, Illinois, and which is pretty cool because you grew up being a Chicago Wolves fan. Can you talk a little bit about Downers Grove and where you grew up in the suburbs of Chicago and what sports was like?
Yeah, so I grew up outside the city of Chicago. I think Downers Grove is 40 miles outside the city, so it's definitely in the suburbs, but it's a nice area. I've grown up playing sports in Downers Grove. I've played baseball, hockey, basketball, flag football, volleyball, volleyball with friends, bowling with friends, a lot of other things with friends. But it's definitely been a good area to grow up, and I have so many friends here that I was on teams with because I played baseball competitively, basketball, hockey, and then I ran cross country and track through 8th grade, and then through high school and college as well. So I've done plenty of different sports, but I've enjoyed every experience with that, and it's been a lot of fun growing up here, and it's always good to come back home.
Yeah, I think I saw some pictures of you running cross country or track. Which one did you excel in most, track or cross country?
I would say track more than cross country. I love cross country, but it was high school was 3 miles, and then college was 5 miles.
Yeah,
and once you're halfway through the race, you're what am I doing? I loved it, but your mind, that's why I think my mindset right now is so strong, is because of those cross country races, because you have to push through.
Oh yeah,
push through so much pain throughout that time. You're a mile and a half in, you have a mile and a half to go, and then you're 2 miles into the race in college, and you have 2.5 more miles to go, and you just got to mentally push through it. Because running's the easy part. It's just the mental part, and being able to continue to go and not be oh, I'm gonna just drop out. I won't care, but I cared a lot, and I didn't drop out of any workouts, any races, and if I start, I'm gonna finish. And like I would say like track is what I excelled in most though, because like it was shorter. Like I would do the 800 meter races, and like I think my best is 2:10.
Wow, nice.
And then I would do the mile as well, and I got down to 5:02. Couldn't break the 5-minute mark, but it was definitely like one of my better races was the mile and the 800.
Yeah, I was a 200 guy. I loved everything about the 200 because you sprinted the majority of the way, but there was also just an element of a pace as well in the 200, and it was something I just excelled in really well. It killed me watching the Olympics this year, watching all because I love the relays. Relays are my favorite, the 4x4, the 4x2, the 4x1, just absolutely love them, and I competed in the 4x2, and to see the guys in the 4x2s just mess it up so bad for the 5th straight Olympics for the U.S. men's just drove me bonkers. A big track and field guy. Cross country was hard. I agree with you 100%. Because I've always talked about this in sports, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, right? Because you're a cross country guy, track, obviously playing hockey and everything. I believe that in hockey, you have to have physical talent. That's one.
Yeah.
You need to have mental fortitude. That's number 2. And then you need to have another aspect of the mental side of it, which is hockey IQ. And I think mental fortitude is probably the toughest thing for all the people that play sports to have, right? Because mental fortitude doesn't allow you to drop out, right? It doesn't allow you to freak out and go ballistic and kill somebody, right? Mental fortitude is probably one of the toughest aspects of just sports in general, not just hockey, but, even cross country, like you said, not wanting to bail out and everything. How difficult is it to have all 3 of those, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty difficult to have like all 3 of those, like, because like obviously you need the physical side, the physical talent and everything, but talent's only going to take you so far just on talent alone. So you obviously need the mental fortitude and everything, and like that's what, like, especially like with goaltending, I think it's a lot more mental than physical. Like, yeah, you do stuff in the crease and like your movements and stuff, but like the mental part comes to like when you give up a goal, like how do you react to it? When you get cut by a team, like what are you going to do to get better to have a team not cut you the next time you try out or wherever you go? And then same thing, like you just got to like, because there's sometimes where it's like throughout the game, like so many like thoughts come into your head and you got to cloud out the ones that are negative and really stay positive and have like that like that positive self-talk, and like that led into like cross country too. Like running was the easy part. It was just the racing part where it's like I said before, like you have to be like, I can't like just keep going. Like I can't just give up. Like don't give up. Like just keep going. Like it's almost over. If you have to say it's almost over, like you'll eventually get there, and like it keeps you in like a positive mindset. And then same thing for baseball. Like when you're in the batter's box and you're down 0-2 in the count, you can't get stressed or anything like that. You just got to stay in the moment, stay focused, and read the pitch out of the pitcher's hand. And like it goes so long, especially with the mental game. Like that's out of like all the sports I've played, that's one of the most important things I've learned is it really is all about the mental part of the game, but you also need to have all 3 aspects as well.
Yeah, how competitive is youth sports in Chicago? I think the one guy that I've had on in the last couple of years, Colin Fitzgerald, talked a little bit about it. As you know, you've talked to his brother on your podcast. He's playing minor league ball right now. Colin looks like Colin's going to retire from hockey after last year and everything. So how competitive is youth sports in Chicago or in that whole area there?
Yeah, I think youth sports, especially in Chicago, is super talented. Like you have all these guys, especially hockey. Like you have all these different players of different calibers we have a lot of AHL, NHL, Coast, SB, like Fed guys too. So like and like a lot of NCAA D1 guys, D3 guys, like everywhere, like you have high high talent throughout the state, and like it only leads into starting in the youth sports, and then having like that dedication and everything to go up and just carry that on throughout in whatever sport that you play.
Was it difficult to find ice when you were younger? When did you actually start playing competitively? And if I'm understanding correctly, you didn't even start off as a goaltender when you first started, correct?
Yeah, I did not start off as a goaltender. I was a player. So I started skating when I was 3 years old. I first learned to skate then. Went to probably like a learn to skate or something like that. With like, probably didn't have the greatest time because I think I fell a lot during that time. But like you eventually get used to it and everything, and then you go to the learn to play where you're just learning the basics of hockey, the fundamentals, and then you really get into like the league play and the teams, and like there's so many different teams and everything and leagues that you like, especially in Downers Grove, like literally 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes away, there's probably 50 rinks that you can go to. So ice time was never a problem. But yeah, I played forward from when I was 3 years old, or when I first could play. So probably like 4 or 5 years old until I was 18. I played a couple seasons of spring hockey for my high school team in Downers Grove with DuPage Stars, and then after that, like I tried on one of my buddies' gear because he was a goalie for one of the Stars teams, and he's like, you should try goalie. So I was like, yeah, okay, like whatever, like so I tried it on obviously, and like instantly fell in love with it, and like maybe it was like the desperation phase, and like just the exhilaration that you get from stopping those shots and like diving across crease. But later you learn to be like, if I'm doing that, I'm way out of position, and I should not be making desperation saves on every play. But you learn the basics, the fundamentals. So yeah, I started playing goalie full time at 18, and I played like beer league when I was 18 because I didn't know what junior hockey was, and I was already in college and committed to run, so I couldn't really like change. And I've always been like a late bloomer as well, so like I was already like on like the smaller end of like the weight. Like I was like, I think like I was like sub 100 pounds or something like that going into college. Like no one's gonna take you seriously. So like I think that's why like I really was like, if I'm gonna take hockey anywhere, like goalie is going to be what I have to be to take it seriously. Even though I love playing forward, like I'll still go out and play forward in beer league or men's league or whatever it is, like throughout the summer and score goals. Like, gotta love scoring goals. But like it was definitely like, if I'm going to take it seriously, like, and like take it as far as I can, I think goalie is what I'm going to have to do. And played beer league, met my goalie coach from a youth camp at 18. Started skating with like pro guys, like AHL coast guys since I was 18, 19.
How does that help you? How does that help you? What do you learn from those AHL guys and those coast guys when you do get to do that? I was just talking with Liam Anderson here on the same exact the show and everything, and he's from Toronto, and he was like, listen, I'm playing in a league right now in the summertime, and Connor McDavid is in the same league, right? You know, so you're talking about a Fed guy and probably arguably one of the greatest hockey players to play. Playing in the same league in the summertime. Why? Because everybody has to keep their skills sharpened and stuff like that. How does playing against those AHL and East Coast guys helped you?
Yeah, I think you really like get to learn and see like firsthand about like all the small details and the extra attention that players like that emphasize on, like getting better with like the little details, whether that be like as a forward, just like getting that shot off a little quicker, like maybe having that step on another guy, like the start and stop and like quicker, like stuff like that. Like maybe it was like as a goalie, like it's just reading the play a little bit better and like learning how to read that play as the play develops, like learning how to like manage your depth and how much ice you should take on like when a guy's like this far out compared to like when I should be a little bit deeper in my crease, like as they come closer or like further out. Just depends on these different situations and everything, like managing that crease, and then like as well as like since I'm a smaller guy, like I had to learn from a lot of like smaller goalies on how to play to my strengths, and which is like I believe is like my hands. Like my hands are probably my biggest strength. My skating is a big strength as well.
Right, because you were a forward for a while.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, do the skills translate? Are there some skills that can translate? I know Connor McAnanimal here in Binghamton has played a lot of forward, and also during the summertime will not even play goalie. He'll actually play forward in the summertime and whatnot. He suited up for a game when Binghamton was short on players and, got a couple shifts in and everything. Has that translated well for you, the skating that you were able to do as a forward when you became a goalie? Is there some skills that translate to goalie even though, from a forward?
I think a little bit. Like, it depends on, like, the skill. Like, I think my hands are, like, I was always good with, like, batting the pucks out of the air when I was playing. So, like, I think that really helped with, like, hand-eye coordination and being able to read the shot off the stick and, like, getting a glove or a blocker on it. But, like, when I first, like, my skating was one of my weakest points when I first started being a goalie. Like, it's been night and day difference since then. But, like, it's all, like, different patterns, different movements. So, like, you really gotta continue to skate every day. Like, I just skate 15, 20 minutes every skate usually, and it's like you really have to move around that crease well. And, like, it's different than skating when you're just going up and down the ice, but, like, as a goalie, you're within the crease, so you got to be, like, short, precise, and, like, really, like, know your angles, and, like, especially if pass goes laterally or something like that, like, you have to be able to take like a deep push on angle and square up right away, and so you got to be like quick and have that like precise movement as a goalie.
Jack, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about when I was learning about you and finding out about your podcast and everything is your love for the Chicago Wolves. I've seen pictures of you in your Chicago Wolves jersey. I saw you with the Calder Cup. I think I sent you a picture of me with the Calder Cup. So it's a trophy you and I have both been around and touched and probably love without even knowing that each other loved it so much, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your love for the Chicago Wolves? When people used to ask me what my favorite hockey team was for a long, long time, now I am a New York Rangers fan. That is my favorite NHL team. But I always said whatever team played in Binghamton, New York, right? Because I'm a Binghamton guy, and I grew up loving hockey here in Binghamton and everything. So whether it was the Rangers or the Senators or the Whalers or whoever was here, I always said, my Binghamton hockey team. I have a feeling that you probably do have an NHL favorite team, but that the Wolves are just that much more special to you. Is that am I guessing that right?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like, obviously, like I'm a Hawks fan because I'm from Chicago,
yes,
or from Illinois. But like I'm also like I'd also be a fan of like whatever the affiliate for the Wolves is. So, like the Wolves have always been my number one team. And, like I've been going to their games since I was 2 or 3 years old. So they've been in my life pretty much my whole life, and I've seen them win the 2008 Calder Cup in person at the Allstate back in Rosemont, and then like in 2022 when they won it, I actually took the trip with some friends that I met from the Wolves games to Springfield, Mass, and saw them win it away in 22, and then got to like party with the team and everything because like I know a lot of like the people like staff members from the team, like my goalie coach Stan Dubicki is a big part of my life and like my goaltending career and like that he's helped me get to where I'm at today. And like I've had a lot of those guys, and like obviously when you're around the Wolves and for as long as I have, like you meet a lot of the staff members, and then like stay at the same hotel as them. So like we enjoyed the championship with the Wolves as well.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. And, Jason Shaver's been on the show, multiple times back in my AHL days. Billy Gardner as well.
Yeah.
Love Billy. Billy is one of the kindest, one of the nicest guys in the business. If you're in the business, broadcasting, talking about hockey, he loves to talk to those people. I sent you the picture of me and Billy and everything. I love it. The AHL is different than the Fed, right? I mean, the players are that much closer to the NHL and everything. Has there been a player, a Chicago Wolves player, that even though this guy doesn't need to give you the time of day, really did kind of like touch you in a certain way that, you were like, yes, this is the reason why I'm in hockey. I love this guy. Is there a Wolves player that you got to know a little bit that, just made you really just love hockey and Wolves hockey even more?
Yeah, well, there's a ton of those guys. Like I've probably like Brett Sterling, Darren Hadard, Jason Krog, like those guys.
You just mentioned three guys that were on the Power Play Post show, by the way. I just want you to know that. All three of those guys have been on the show in the past and everything. And I can tell you right now, Darren Hadar was on twice with two different teams. And he was on, I think, with Milwaukee and also the Chicago Wolves. Super, super amazing dude right there.
Yeah, like those are like three of the guys that like really like it was like 2008, so like I was still like learning and like falling in love with the game and everything at that time. Like they really made me fall in love with the game, especially when I was playing forward back then. Like those three were are Hall of Famers in the AHL for sure.
Oh, without a doubt.
And like I've talked to Sturls. I've had Sturls on the podcast, and like just talking to him about like the past when he was with the Wolves and everything. Like that was pretty cool. And like I've talked to like Jason Krog, Darren Hadar when like they'd have like season ticket parties or like parties like that, and like all the Wolves players would be lined up for like autographs to have you get their autographs. So like that was pretty cool that they did, and like I'd talked to them for a little bit briefly, but like, and then like most recently, like the goalies that like I've worked with like over the summer, like that have been on the Wolves, like Zach Salchenko, like I think he's playing with San Jose Barracuda last year.
Yep.
Like he's taught me a lot about like the position of goaltending and just like how to play stuff. And just being on the ice with him was pretty cool as well. And then same thing with like Hale Morris, who's runner-up in the Kelly Cup Finals in the Coast this past year. Like guys like that, and then like Jake Kucharski came like that year in 22-23 as well after his college season. Like just talking to guys like that, and then like having like Alex Lyon, Pyotr Kochetkov, guys like that. Like you definitely like learn a lot from them, and just see where they're at with their success in their career so far is pretty amazing.
So let's talk a little bit about the podcast, On the Spot Sports. You started this off with your brother. It's been going on for, I think, since 2018, if I remember correctly, if that's correct, and everything. Yep. What got you guys into doing the podcast?
Yeah, so it was my brother wasn't really a part of it, but he was like on the Instagram part, on the social media part, and then like my cousin and I.
Oh, okay.
My cousin Tyler and I were the ones that really started it, and then like my brother was like on the side of. He was never on camera, but like he was doing like he had like Instagram open on his phone when he was doing it, and like we always just loved talking sports. Like sports have always been like a part of our lives and everything. So like we'd always get together and talk about sports. And like one day in 2018, we're like, what would be the possibility that like we create a podcast and like we can talk sports like all day, and like every episode we could talk about like some major sport league that did something. Like we focus first on like the four main sports like MLB, NHL, NBA, NFL. So like those four leagues, and like so we talk about like the news that came out from within those leagues and those teams, and get like our opinions on it, and like spread like facts from like what we've heard from like different sources and stuff like that. And then it turned into getting interviews with different athletes from all those like sports, and like even more sports past the 4 major sports. And then our schedules got really busy in like I'd say 21, 22. So like he's Tyler's still a part of the podcast, but like he's given me to the job to like go do these interviews, and like it's turned into more hockey than anything else. And that's the sport I play, and that's the sport I enjoy the most. So like I've had a bunch of like Fed, SP, Coast, AHL, like former NHL guys like Scott Darling, Christopher Sieg, stuff, guys like that. And then like it's really grown a lot since the start in 2018, and it's been a good journey so far. And it's always fun recording and hearing other people's stories and getting those stories out.
Yeah, you know, On the Spot Sports is phenomenal with a lot of different interviews. The Scott Darling one has got to be very interesting. What a great story, right? Started in the SP, goes to the NHL, wins a championship, I believe with the Blackhawks, right? If I remember correctly.
Yep, with the Hawks.
Yeah, and so obviously a great connection for you to be able to talk to him about Chicago sports and everything. But what a great story, right? Because isn't that what really single A hockey is trying to do? It's trying to produce that darling in the rough, or that diamond in the rough, but darling in the rough, so to speak, of a guy who starts off at this level but then can make it to there. And basically what we're saying is a D3 guy, a junior A, a junior B kind of player that didn't play major junior, didn't play D1 hockey, but still makes it to the NHL and plays through the SP, plays through the FPHL. I got to imagine that Scott Darling probably has just a great story to tell, and I'm guessing you really enjoyed probably talking to him.
Yeah, I that was honestly probably one of my favorites, just because of the story and going through everything from the SP. Then he went to the Coast. Spent a couple years in the American League, and then he spent a lot of his career in the NHL after that. So like it was cool to hear those stories and the adversity he faced, and like it's kind of reminds me of like my past, because like my path obviously has been anything but ordinary, with not playing juniors, not playing college, and then going into the mill in the Michigan Independence Hockey League, and then working my way into the Fed. Like it's definitely like a story like that. So like I really resonated with that, with Darling's story as well, with going from the SP and just trying to work your way up to the top that you can play.
What can you tell us about the Michigan Independent Hockey League? Obviously, I don't think I've talked to many players that have played in that league. I think you and now Taylor from last week's show have played in it. What can you tell us about the mill at this point?
Yeah, it's definitely a growing league. Like there's a lot of different prospect players that are trying to develop and get to the next level, whether it be the Fed, SP, and so forth. So it's like a development league, I would say. Guys that have played ACHA, D3, D2, D1. There's some guys that played ACHA D1 in that league. So it continues to keep growing, and it's like some guys just want to play competitive hockey, but there's a lot of guys that I know that are trying to work their way up to the Fed and the higher levels. So it's a great development period, and every year it's getting stronger and stronger. And especially this past year, it's been the best that I've ever seen it play and ever seen it be in my 2 years in the league. So it's definitely growing, and the pace is getting faster, and the players that are coming in are definitely getting stronger and played at different higher ranks as well.
So let's talk a little bit about, obviously, the last few years for you. You've also formed a relationship with the Watertown Wolves, and you spent some time with them last year. You didn't play in any games, but you did spend some time with them and everything. Yep. So talk about that relationship with the Watertown Wolves right now. You obviously have signed a PTO to come into camp, obviously compete for a position and everything. How did you get hooked up with, first of all, Watertown, other than the fact that their last name is the Wolves and everybody knows that you're a Wolves fan in Chicago? So talk a little bit about how that relationship started with you and Watertown.
Yeah, so it goes back to the Fed League free agent camp last summer in Elmira.
Oh, okay.
When all the teams were there, and like I've tried out for teams in the Fed for like their free agent camps like since 2021, since 2020, 2021, and like Watertown has been a camp that I've gone to like every year since then. So like I went to Watertown, Motor City, Bingo. I went to missing a couple more, but like also like Vermilion County and Quad City in the SB too. So like I've been going to these free agent camps, and like I've impressed a lot of coaches and management throughout the years of just like that I don't really have a resume or anything like that to fall back on. So like I've impressed them, but like unfortunately, like no opportunities have come up to the point to the free agent camp in Elmira for the league wide free agent camp, and like when there's like I think like 60 goalies to start, and like they cut down to 16 goalies after the first day, and I was lucky enough to make that first cut. So like we went on to the next day, and like it was pretty much just a weekend of just probably 4 different games throughout the next 3 days or something like that. So like I played good, performed well, and everything like that, and like really played to like the best of my ability at the time. And then like I've known some of the coaches and management throughout those teams that were there, and like our GM at Watertown, Charlie Penn's, like he was really impressed with like my game, and like he said like I look good and like I played good and everything like that. But like I didn't get anything at that camp until I want to say like September, like literally the last day of September last fall. Like I think I just came back from Quad City's free agent camp and like I was actually like with Taylor at that free agent camp as well in Quad City.
Right.
Like I got home, and then and then that night like 7:00, like Penner called me and was like, we want you to come to camp. Like we had a goalie like that can't make it up. Like the spot's yours if you want. You could really work your way and work in the lineup. Like we have some really good goalies coming in, but like you could battle for a spot. And I was like, done. Like I'm in. And I literally left. I got that call at 7, and then I was on the road the next morning at like 11 a.m. and got in at 12:30 a.m., 1:00 a.m. that next day, and then camp started like that following day right away. So I really got into it, and then was lucky enough that like Penner saw something in me and really like helped me develop and like stay and like learn at that level of being in the Fed and what it takes to be a full-time guy in the Fed, and that leads me into practicing throughout the year there. And then
they kept
eventually getting a PTO.
Yeah, no, so absolutely PTO for obviously this upcoming season. So what was your role last year? You came in and you practiced a lot with the team, even though you weren't signed with the team, correct?
Yeah, I practiced every day with the team, and then helped out with wherever was needed, whether it be like selling tickets, like just being a good teammate, supporting the boys, like whatever it was to help out the organization.
So let me ask you this question, and most of the people on this podcast or who've listened to this podcast know my feelings about Trav Ridgen, right? You've had him on the show. Yeah. You've also had Spencer Kozlowski on the show, right? And Spencer's one of the guys you're going to be competing with in camp, and you know Spencer obviously very well and everything. It must, and maybe it didn't, and maybe I'm fishing here, and I sometimes I like to go fishing and catch a carp or a goldfish every once in a while. But let me ask you this: Trav wins the position, and then he doesn't make good on that position. Did it get into your crawl just a little bit that he got that position, and maybe you could have taken that position a little bit farther than he did? Is that a fair question? Because again, I'm not trying to get you to throw Trav under the bridge, but I'm just did you feel like, man, I could have done a little bit more with that than what Trav did?
I mean, I was just there, just no matter who was the goalies and who was signed and everything. I was there to just learn from those guys. Like obviously Dave played in the league before. Like they got time in juniors, college, like wherever that may be. So like I was just trying to like be a sponge and learn from guys that are playing, and like because like eventually like that's what I want to do. Like I want to play games this year.
Yeah.
So just to learn and under guys like that, especially Kaz, like who I believe in my opinion is one of the best goalies in the league.
Sure.
If not the best goalie, and like just learning from him and everything like that was really, really cool and really like a good thing for me to learn under and learn about his like routine, his mindset, stuff like that, and just to really be able to like grow my game and grow like my knowledge of being in the Fed.
You know, Jack, it's a great answer because obviously I'm fishing for something like, oh no, it really bugged me, but you know, obviously we talked about mental fortitude, hockey IQ, and of course the physical part of the game and everything. And part of that mental fortitude is to not worry about what other people are doing, right? And just worry about yourself and everything. And just answering that question the way you did just kind of proves that you can't worry about what someone else does or says or how they react or how they accept a responsibility or a position and what they do with it. You just can only worry about yourself and everything. Coming into this upcoming camp and everything, what are you hoping for at the end of the day?
To be signed and get game time this year, and like I believe like I've set myself up extremely well for that to happen. Like I've been working like my butt off this summer and really dialing it in, and I really feel good about my game. So like I'm excited to go in, get better throughout the summer, keep getting better every single day throughout the summer, leading up into camp, and be the best goalie that I've ever been come day one of camp.
Excellent. Before I let you go, what's coming up for the podcast? What do you? Is there any upcoming special guest that you're really excited about having on?
Yeah, so I have a bunch of episodes in the queue waiting to be released. Like I have Brandon Contrado coming on, Nolan Egbert.
Eggy.
The Binghamton fans will be happy about that.
Oh, he's great. He's great.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just great.
Yeah, he's a beauty. And then like guys like Liam Murray from Danbury, I'm having him on. Like the episode will be released soon, and just like those are like some of the most recent episodes that I've recorded that's going to be released within the next couple weeks.
Nice.
Leading up into September.
Nice. Now, how much during the actual season, say you get signed with Watertown, how much do you think you'll still produce on the podcast-wise? Do you think it's still something that you'll just pound out in the evening time and everything? Or do you think that slows down a little bit? Say you get 20 games in this year with Watertown. Does it slow you down podcast-wise, or do you think you can still pound those through?
I think I'll still pound them through. Like I obviously will try and like I love doing like the Fed guys over the summer, especially since I'm in the league now. Like if it feels like a conflict of interest, I don't really want to do it like when I'm playing against guys that I'm playing against. But like I'll have like SV guys, like guys that have played in the Fed that are playing the SV right now, the Coast guys. Like I've had, especially last year, I had a couple of AHL guys on that came on throughout the season, and then I have a couple of buddies that I've had throughout that I've known personally that are going to come on just to fill that time. But like, yeah, like throughout the week, like I'll have time to record episodes and keep it going and keep it consistent. That's awesome.
Awesome. Jack, thank you very much for coming on. I hope to have you back on again so we can talk a little bit more, especially as we get into the regular season and everything, and just talk to you about your experience in camp and how everything turns out and everything. So I hope you'll come back on and talk to us again.
Yeah, absolutely. Any time that you want me on, I'm definitely gonna make time to come on. But thank you again for having me. Like this is a lot of fun, and want to thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It's On the Spot Sports with Jack Hudec. And of course, Watertown Wolves PTO camp this year. Let's hope he gets through and makes it, and maybe Taylor. Maybe he'll be going up against Taylor, like in Danbury or in Watertown. The two of you guys going up against each other. Now that would be pretty freaking awesome.
That'd be fun, especially since I know her personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you guys, as we all know, Danbury is a rough and tumble type of team. You guys can drop the gloves at center ice.
I'm looking for a goalie coach, so I'm happy. I'm happy with whenever that comes.
If Taylor jumps you, do you have to, fight back? That's got to be like the worst thing. It's like, Taylor, I can't fight you. It's like,
yeah, I think I just lose that one, and then the next one I'll actually try to win.
Yeah, I would be the same way as well. Hopefully Taylor gets a kick out of this and everything. But either way, Jack, thank you so much for coming on. We totally appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.